Today I'm here to talk about a game which is very close to my heart, Grounded. With it being one of my most played games ever, I'm surprised I haven't made a video on it sooner, but with the final content update being released back in April, I thought it was a good time. I'm going to talk about Grounded's incredible features, great developers and amazing community, which all work in unison to create this incredible game. Oh yeah, and spoiler warning for bits in this video. I tried not to ruin too much about the story, but there's still some small spoilers in there, so be warned. Let's start on its features with the map. In Grounded, you play as one of 4 teens who have been shrunk down to the size of an ant and dropped into a back garden to explore and find a way to get big again. This means that throughout the game you'll encounter new environments that would have been completely harmless if you were big, but are now dangerous hellscapes due to your size, and the way the map is made makes this incredibly daunting. First of all, the sheer size of the garden is incredible. There's 3 layers, the underground, the surface and the upper yard, all with massive standout differences in styles. The underground is filled with ants and hidden treasures in complete darkness, as well as abandoned labs and underwater tunnels. The surface or lower yard is where you spend most of early to mid game. This is where you'll find most biomes, creatures and resources to help you in your journey. Finally, the upper yard is where you spend most of late game and is where more deadly bugs lurk. All of these layers can be accessed in different ways and are all incredibly important to the story and pacing of the game, but the lower yard is probably the best in terms of content and difficulty scaling. It has a vast landscape filled with loads of unique areas and terrain which are all fully fleshed out and easy to explore. Some of these include the hedge, which is filled with ziplines and webs, forcing the player to do a bit of parkour to progress, pond, which is an incredibly fun but risky underwater adventure filled with algae and tadpoles, the haze, which has been birthed from a massive gas leak infecting the surrounding areas and local bug species, turning it into a hellish wasteland only bearable with a gas mask, and the sandbox, which burns with its boiling temperatures and rewards with its hidden treasures. Every environment listed and more are surrounded by massive blades of grass towering over the player and hiding the true horrors of the yard. Most of your time will be spent carefully moving through these blades, but every now and again you can see them bend in the presence of a massive creature 10 times your size and ready to kill. Most of the time you'll get lucky and it'll be a ladybug or a glitched ant, but on those odd times when it's night and everything is silent you'll see something much worse. The nighttime in this game is terrifying because everything is pitch black. When the player can't see the insects stalking them, it's all over. The once emerald glow of the grass is now replaced with dark greens and blacks, painting pictures of stalking eyes and bloodthirsty mouths. Although nothing happened on the walk home, tensions never cease. Without the incredible map design, this simple yet crucial effect would have never been achieved. Every aspect of the map, from its heavily destructible environments all the way to its terrifying designs, helps make Grounded one of the most fun and vibrant survival games I've ever played. On top of this, the upper yard also has some great aspects which makes it stand out. The upper yard is home to some of the coolest and most dangerous environments in the entire game. There's burning hot barbecues, massive termite complexes, mite-infested caverns and even a shining toy castle. Similar to the lower yard, the upper yard has some incredible secrets and hidden details, which enhances the already great atmosphere into something which will leave the players starstruck when they first encounter them. And there's basically no differences in quality. Everything from the very basics of the map all the way to the massive structures and standout features are all outstanding in every aspect and are incredibly calming and exciting to look at. Now finally for the features, the underground. Out of all the 3 layers, the underground is both the smallest and most minuscule area. It's mostly just tunnels containing hidden secrets and grants, but I want to talk about how it makes that up in length. Barely any areas in the underground are bigger than a field station, but these tight tunnels stretch across the entire yard and now, as a result of the new update, contain some game-changing features. This allows the underground to act as a solid danger-free transport route for materials, players, and more to move without worry. That is why it's considered important. Round finished, I'm now going to move on to weapons and armour. To start, the weapons in this game are so fun. There's a very close step up from your old weapon when you get a new one, and the insane variety that they have really makes them stand out. For context, every enemy is a certain percentage weak and resistant to weapon types and weapon effects. Some may take more damage from stabbing weapons like spears, while others will take more damage from slashing weapons like katanas. It has an incredible layer of depth to the combat system, and it means that players can strategically choose some weapons over others to give them an advantage over their opponent. On top of this, weapons can also be enhanced with special effects such as fresh and spicy, using candies found throughout the yard. These create even more depth and variety, as a weapon that is spicy and slashing could be used against a spider to deal more damage, while a fresh and stabbing weapon could be used against a ladybug to do the same. All of these small features create so much intrigue for the player and encourages them to explore the world of combat and to get better at all of its aspects. Also, there are over 35 weapons in total, and all of them have different strengths and weaknesses, as well as different designs which correspond to their components. If a weapon was made from ant parts, it might have mandibles in the ant's colour scheme, and if the weapon was made from a mosquito, it will probably have a sharp point and will be coloured dully. And they all attack in a different way. Some slash, some stab, some poke, and some pulverise, but they all feel fresh and useful in their own right. And it doesn't stop there. You can get bows and modify arrows to give them special effects, as well as magical staffs and robotic daggers which have ranged AoE and brute force attacks. Now I know this all seems very overwhelming, but the crafting menu is set up in a way that allows the player to easily understand the strengths and effects of each weapon. There are 3 tiers of weaponry and tools: Tier 1 the basics, Tier 2 the intermediates, and Tier 3 the advanced. Each tier has a clear difference in effectiveness and power, with Tier 1 being able to kill and destroy some things, and Tier 3 is being able to kill and destroy almost everything. The higher the tier, the more difficult they are to craft, but in the end, there's a massive payoff. Finally, in this section, special weapons such as boss and glob weapons each have unheard of abilities and powers. There are only a couple of boss weapons and grounded, so I'll be quick. All you really need to know is that after defeating a boss, you can use its parts to create an ultra powerful weapon which has special modifiers to increase their effectiveness. For example, the Mantis' boss weapon increases in speed with every consecutive attack, meaning with lots of stamina and strength you can decimate your opponent. Glob weapons on the other hand are what I like to call weapons which use modifier globs in their recipe or embody a certain effect. These are usually super strong late game weapons which are used by most as their primary or secondary. The wizard staffs I mentioned earlier are a clear example of this. They each use and embody certain effects like fresh or spicy to create magic similar to their aspects. The spicy staff can cast lava, the fresh staff can cast ice, and the sour staff can cast energy. All of the features that I've just waffled on about bring so much excitement and intrigue to the weapons in Grounded, as they are well put together and easy to learn, which leads me on to my next point, armor. To start, the armor in Grounded is very similar to the weapons, and they'll take up the designs and textures of their predecessors. Killed a roly-poly, here's some cool looking knight armor. Killed an antlion, here's a cool looking sombrero and a sheet. But unlike the weapons, some armors are essential for quality of life and progression. To get through certain areas like the ponds, sandbox and barbecue, certain armors are needed to grant benefits which will help the player stay alive. These could be anything from simple heat resistance all the way to greater stamina and speed. Also, certain sets of armor will give added bonuses when worn all at once, giving the player a reason to get a full set instead of just mixing and matching. On top of this, it allows the player to create or find the perfect armor set for their playstyle. And it doesn't stop there. Like the weapons, they can be upgraded, but this time as light or heavy armor. Light armor will grant the player less protection against damage, but will in turn increase speed and stamina. This path could be merged with armor which already gives some speed buffs to create an incredibly fast build, or it could be used on a tanky armor to try and level out its defense and speed. Heavy armor on the other hand is the exact opposite and instead grants increased damage resistance and lower speed. This pack could be used in the same way as light armor, but with faster armors being leveled out and tankier armors being heightened to the max. These features aren't as in depth as the weapon features, but for a good reason. They would become too complex and niche if they could defend better against certain bugs, because combat would become too technical with consistent armor swaps and build changes, which aren't needed and slow down fights. Next, the way armor scaled is the same way as weapons with 3 tiers, but it's much more clear when you should get a new set of armor. Rule is, if you can kill it, you can get its armor. Can't kill ladybugs without dying, then get better gear and combat experience and come back to it when you are ready. No one really picks up on this, but it's a very small yet clever feature that is used to keep the player hooked on 1 or 2 important goals. Finally, dead bosses can also be turned into armor, which when used correctly can give the same abilities as the boss. For example, the full Broodmother set can give a Thorns-like effect. Next up we've all been waiting for, the bugs. And other things. This is my favourite part of Grounded by far. Every new area, every new layer, and every new day, there's always some new creature or enemy to face, completely different from the last. There's larvas, weevils, aphids, grubs, spiders, ladybirds, robots, and so much more to encounter as you play the game. Every new enemy, and I mean every new enemy, has new attack patterns and abilities that the player needs to overcome to survive. And it doesn't just stop at the ground. Bees, wasps, mosquitoes and more plague the skies, swooping down at every opening. The amount of creatures in this game is insane, and almost every past update has brought new ones to the yard and with them new ways to fight. The player really is to adapt and modify their strategies consistently to win, and it keeps the game fresh and unique with every encounter. And they all look so damn cool. Their hair and movements are animated so well, making them almost scary. Spiders will scuttle towards you without a second thought, ladybugs will charge at you in the blink of an eye, and stink bugs will launch themselves at you with no hesitation. All these insane moves and animations trigger the player's fight or flight instinct, making the situation either insanely intense or overwhelmingly terrifying. And they get more complex as you progress, with their AI and arsenal improving, creating more deadly scenarios and scary moments. On top of this, certain bugs are programmed to only show up at night, which helps add to the atmosphere that I talked about in the map segment. Everything is purposely made more scary at night to encourage the player to find a place to stay. Wolf spiders, fireflies and more are all triggered during the night, and while everything else is sleeping, they lurk the yard looking for their prey. This also means that during the day you can run into these nocturnal or guys sleeping under some leaves or underground. This adds an extra layer of depth to the creature's behaviour, as without the proper knowledge they could attack unexpectedly. As you progress, you can find some more unique creatures higher up or lower down in the yard. Ox beetles and dust mites contaminate the cracks in the soil, and tiger mosquitoes and moths live high above in the sky. Creatures will start to spawn in harder to reach locations with high risk and high reward factors. Long trips will need to be set up with lots of supplies, to find and hoard the parts of slain foes, to eventually bring back to camp and utilise to the best of their ability. On top of this, you will start to encounter new variations of bugs that you've previously seen. Red ants turn to fire ants, lava turn to rotting beasts, and once harmless foes turn into destructive powerhouses. This once again brings an insane level of depth to the creatures in Grounded, and is the main reason why I keep playing it. Every fight is unique and creative, with new strategies being consistently thought of and utilised to make massive changes on the battlefield, turning the tides and saving lives. However, these strategies take time, and one feature that completely ignores that fact is bug raids. When you kill enough of a certain creature, the colony can become mad at you and try to take you out. They can raid your base, break down walls, and if not stopped, can reset the player to ground zero. It's a feature that I personally love, as I feel like it keeps me consistently on my toes and ready for battle. Finally, bosses are the big kahunas of Grounded. They shake the earth with every step and are some of the toughest fights in the entire game. These range all the way from a massive spider all the way to a manic robot and give massive rewards when you kill them. They differ from normal bugs, as most of the time they have insane stats, an arena, and lots of abilities which directly affect that arena. They have a cherry on top of Grounded's ice cream sundae and are truly incredible. Everything from the designs to the main mechanics are all well polished and fun to see. Every attack, smash or jump feels almost as if you're really there and creates this massive blanket of immersion. It's something the developers should be truly proud of and one of my favourite parts of the game. Next, building. The building system in Grounded is massive. Everything from grass walls to mushroom towers can be built to create your perfect base, and many interior options are also available too. When you start to make your base, you of course need to choose a good location, but then you can look through the massive catalogue of walls and parts to start building. The 5 main materials that you will need for most exterior builds are clay, grass, weeds, pebblets and mushrooms, which are all pretty easy to get. You can also build pallets which can store grass and weed stems for easy collection and transport. But let's say you want to lay out a plan before you start building. Well, you can place blueprints of the parts you want anywhere, which will simply take in materials needed when interacted with. And if you no longer want a certain part, then you can simply cancel the blueprint and get all your materials back. This allows the player to have a clear vision before building, preventing annoying mistakes and wasted time. After you have built your base, you'll want to improve its interior and defences. For the inside, you can place workbenches, storage containers, grinders, smoothie stations, beds, bug models, jerky racks, and the list just goes on. It doesn't have to be practical either, as you can also build trampolines and basketball hoops for fun. On top of this, you can gain a coziness factor from your base, which can unlock some amazing new builds like hot tubs and fireplaces, as well as new emotes and ways to use different materials like crow feathers and pine cones in your base. All of these features give a slow yet rewarding form of progression to building, which encourages the player to set on multiple bases to stay instead of just a few storage bins and a lean-to. Furthermore, a base's defences are just as important. At the start of your playthrough, you will only have access to some simple barricades and high walls, but as you progress you can unlock pebblet turrets, lord traps, explosives, splinter traps and specialised disruptors. These can be either unlocked in the shop, or unlocked via researching some of the components, and are incredibly fun to strategize with and use. By setting up certain barricades in the right places, you can easily catch enemies off guard and win defensive challenges with ease. They can also be used to create a great aesthetic for your base by making it look more armoured or heavily fortified. This shows how versatile and usable all these components are, as they can all easily mix together and blend into the perfect defense or the most beautiful base. It makes the player's creativity spark and thrive to create some insane builds. Now moving on to the next section, developers. Obsidian Entertainment was founded on the 12th of June 2003 by 5 game developers and quickly picked up speed with titles such as The Outer Worlds, South Park: The Stick of Truth and eventually Grounded. They were able to time and time again produce high quality games with great variety, which carries on into Grounded. One thing you instantly notice when you start playing is the fact that there are 0 transactions and buyable cosmetics, which considering the state of most games today is an absolute blessing. They put the player first by focusing on creating a fun and enjoyable game for their amazing community rather than profit, leading to one of the most successful creations in the history of the studio. They never took their foot off the gas and kept delivering update after update, all containing great features and pleasing players more than imaginable. New environments, new weapons, new armor sets, new creatures, new items, new mutations, new story, the list goes on and on. Because of this, they were also building a massive amount of traction and recognition in the gaming community. They were also able to build up a large wealth of over 15 million people buying Grounded, which they funneled straight back into the game and its community, creating community yards and fixing bugs. And after 4 years of consistent support and updates, Grounded finally received its last major content update. If you look at the game in 2020 and then the game in 2024, there is such a big difference. Ziplines, New Game Plus, mixes, milk molars, lore, boss fights and so much more has transformed what was once an incomplete buggy early access game into now a 4-year-old gaming behemoth. And it's all thanks to the insane work and dedication that the developers have put into it across such a long period of time. Most studios would stop development on a project like Grounded within 1 to 2 years with few updates. That's where Obsidian Entertainment is different. Grounded is their passion project, their most well-known game, and instead of just leaving it at that, they instead strive to make it better and more accessible for more people. They worked with Xbox for funding and a place in the Game Pass as one of their most popular titles, and kept feeding the hungry mouths of fans, satisfying them with every major update, patch and bug fix. This is why I have a genuine respect for this studio. This is why I want to thank them for this incredible game. This is why they're so inspiring. Now finally onto my last point, the community. Grounded's community is one of the coolest and most diehard that I've ever encountered. I recently joined the Grounded Discord and it's a really enjoyable and safe place to be. Everyone's always helping each other with new builds, strategies and advice, and barely anyone is negative or insulting to others. Everybody's so closely knit and it makes the community feel more like a family. Furthermore, with the addition of community playgrounds, players can now join together to showcase their incredible creations and build up their confidence with the people around them. It's a great way for players to express themselves while enjoying one of their favourite games, and it allows the developers to give back to their community. On top of this, the Discord also takes in fan art, suggestions for new features, and gives support for players so everyone can feel included regardless of their interest, problems, or experience. Finally, the community helps Grounded grow, as simple things like recommendations or posts on social media can help new players or returning players get back into the game, increasing the player count and boosting Grounded's success. In conclusion, Grounded has reached where it is today by being an enjoyable experience for everyone with hundreds of fun and interesting features, having developers with an incredible attitude to work and dedication, and being graced with one of the best communities I've ever seen. Thank you for listening to me rant for just over 15 minutes. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.